providing entirely new ways to interact with data and services, Amazon's own services, of course, and third-party platforms like Uber, Capital One, and so on. Amazon's Alexa is somewhat unique in that its breakout moment actually didn't come from a mobile phone or a tablet, but from an innovative new device that was launched in November of 2014 called the Amazon Echo. We're going to talk a lot about that today. The Echo occupies a space that was yet unfulfilled. The diminutive 9.25-inch always-on cylinder became the must-have gadget of the year. You might have seen the commercials with Alec Baldwin over the Super Bowl. Those are pretty good. Allowing everybody from grandmothers to tech geeks to speak in a natural language, to play music, and of course, order things from Amazon. Now with the launch of two more Alexa-enabled devices, the Amazon Tap and the Amazon Echo Dot, plus the addition of Alexa on Fire TV devices, Alexa is reaching more users and getting smarter, doing everything from being able to order Domino's to ordering an Uber. In connecting with smart home devices like those from Samsung SmartThings and Belkin Wemo, who we're honored to have with us today. So a little background on myself and our company. So my company, Slate Studio, is a research and development incubator located in the heart of Silicon Beach. And we've had the opportunity to be able to work with lots of early technologies like those from Google, YouTube, and others. Our first real exposure to the Amazon Alexa ecosystem was when we were designing the Tribeca Shortlist Fire TV app. And so we started playing with it, and we were geeking out pretty hard. And so when the Echo device launched, I actually ordered one, and it came on a Saturday morning, and it was so cool that I didn't leave my house all weekend because I was yelling into the cylinder, ordering everything from protein bars to fresh food that was coming in about an hour. So that Monday morning, I gathered our team together, and I said, we have to do something with this because we think this is going to be it. We don't want to draw parallels, but it kind of makes Siri look like a toddler. So we're fortunate enough to be able to be working with lots of organizations right now on Alexa skills, of which Michael's going to talk about a lot, and pushing the boundaries to see where we can take those. So with that, I figure we would dive into the details. Michael, let's start with you. Oh, sorry, introductions. I had a whole list of things I was going to do, and now the order's changed. So let's do introductions. Michael.
So, thank you. My name is Michael Francisco. I work for Amazon. I'm the lead for partnerships and business development around Alexa, specifically focused on Alexa Skills Kit, so helping partners and top consumer brands bring experiences to Alexa to help enrich the customer experience.
Andrew Howlett. I am a partner and Chief Digital Officer at Rain. We are a digital agency, offices in Utah, New York, and Nicaragua. And we partner with different clients and are helping them currently see the vision and then also help build and develop these skills and then deploy them and support them.
Hi, I'm Brett Worthington, Vice President of Global Business Development for Samsung SmartThings. And we are an open connected home platform that partners with people like Belkin up here on the panel, as well as Amazon Echo. And we're really founded around building an open developer and partner-friendly ecosystem.
Good afternoon. My name's Peter Taylor. I work for Belkin and I run the Wemo business within Belkin. Wemo is just a connected home set of products that help make your life easier, ultimately. We are really excited to be here and to get to connect some of the people on this panel, but also get to meet a wider audience. So thank you for the invite to be here.
Thank you. So now we can dig in. So Michael, let's talk about the Amazon Echo and Alexa specifically. So for those in the audience that don't know about those two devices, the device and the service, let's talk about it.
Sure. So Echo as a device is really just the first form factor through which we've delivered the Alexa experience to consumers. Alexa was born out of the discussions in Amazon trying to figure out how do we make people's lives easier? How do we make it easier to complete the tasks that people have to perform on a day-to-day basis? And as you looked at the evolution of technology and kind of how people interact with it, the keyboard and mouse was revolutionary. The mobile phone was revolutionary in terms of how people are consuming data. And we really believe that voice is the future of how people are going to interact with both information and with the world around them, making it very easy to complete tasks without having to use your eyes or your hands, really freeing you up to do the things you need to do wherever you are. If you think about kind of where this world is heading, I think that the SmartThings guys and the Belkin guys can talk about the dynamic growth in the number of devices that are connected today. And we're looking at a world where a lot of the devices we use today that we think of as dumb devices, tomorrow are going to be smart devices. And Alexa is, in our world, in our view, the conduit through which we believe you can control a lot of those experiences, and we believe that voice is the way to get that done. Being conversational is a really revolutionary thing for us. And I think as you look at the difference between what Alexa is and say what some of the other voice services are, Alexa really is that thing that sits in your home. And due to the far field voice technology, you can stand 20 feet away from it, wake it up, say Alexa, and ask it to do things. In my house, it controls all of my lights, controls my door locks, tells my kids the weather so they know what to wear in the morning. It tells them fart jokes. It does all those great things. And really, in our lives, it's kind of changed the way we interact with the technology around us, and we believe that it's going to do that for the world, which is why we've invested a lot of money in making voice work. It's not easy to do that. We've invested a lot of years and a lot of money in innovating and inventing to make that happen, but we believe we finally have a product that people can use, and we both deliver it in the form of the Echo devices today, but we also have a service called the Alexa Voice Service where we're encouraging people to build Alexa into other hardware. So as you think about cars, you think about, I'll let others on the panel talk about places where you might see Alexa in the future. There's a number of scenarios where you can think about interacting with your voice and do things that you can't do today, but will make a lot more sense tomorrow.
So because we're talking about interacting with voice, it's a non-traditional sort of user interface, right? We're not talking about an app. So how are you actually building these things into Alexa?
So we kind of take a two-stage approach to it. So at one level, we're building kind of what we call top-level domain skills into Alexa. So these are things like weather and news and the flash briefing. So I should pause and ask, how many people here have an Echo device at home? Okay, that's pretty good. So as you think about the top-level skills, so the news, the flash briefing, being able to have Alexa read you a curated set of news in the morning, or having her play Spotify for you, or set alarms, those sorts of things. Those are the functionality that we built in when we launched the device. And now we're spending a lot of time building APIs that allow people to plug their own services into Alexa. So trying to make it easier for people who are building smart devices, plug their devices into Alexa, and doing other innovation there to make it easier to build on top of the platform. But then there's this whole other range of skills that we believe Alexa should have, and we're not taking that project on by ourselves. If you look at the iPhone, I think there's some really revolutionary things about the iPhone, but I would argue that maybe some of the coolest things that happened on the iPhone weren't Apple's invention. It was people who were building on top of that platform, and we believe the same thing will be true with Alexa. So with Alexa, we are working with people to build what we call skills that sit on top of the platform. And the easiest way for me to describe what a skill is to go back to the Matrix. And if you think about the Matrix and Neo wanted to learn how to do Kung Fu, they simply plugged him in, and all of a sudden he had the skills to go be a Kung Fu master and should have made better decisions in the second and third movie. But the idea with Alexa is the same thing, where if you want to be able to order an Uber, you simply enable that skill. Now Alexa can order an Uber for you. Same thing with Domino's. And we'll continue to see more and more innovation on that. And it's fun to sit up here and talk about Alexa, but it's exciting to know kind of what's coming. There's a lot of really cool stuff that's coming for the platform that I think is going to change the way people think about voice interactions. And Andrew can talk a lot about some recent things that have come out, and I think these other guys here are doing a lot of innovation around that as well.
Yeah. So speaking of skills, let's talk a little bit about that. So Andrew, your organization has created quite a few skills. One for Campbell's that got some pretty good press. New one for 1-800-Flowers. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we Campbell's has been a client of ours for a number of years, and one of the big insights that we learned as we do research for them is recipes equal sales for them. If somebody goes looking for a recipe, and if their product is in that recipe, and if you're familiar with Campbell's, they own dozens and dozens of different brands, so they're very pervasive on the aisles of the grocery store, and we kept going back to these recipes equal sales. Well, as we got the Echo early on and in some of the beta phases, started playing around with it, similar experience. It comes out of the box, and that's one of the things I think you notice first is how quickly you're using it and engaging with it without having to think too hard about what you're doing, and I think that's a huge advantage that this platform has over other new technologies that have come out that you have to spend sometimes days trying to figure out what you're doing.
The learning curve is very low.
Very low, very quick. So we started talking about, okay, well, where does everybody keep their Echoes? Where's your Echo? It's in the kitchen. Well, where's your Echo? In the kitchen. Well, where's your Echo? In the kitchen. Okay, yours is in the kitchen, between the kitchen and the family room. Okay. So, it was quite easy for us to say, this is where Campbell's needs to be. Campbell's Kitchen, which is their recipe site, it serves up thousands of different recipes from lots of different chefs around the world. And so we presented this concept to Campbell's, and Campbell's is not known for their wild innovation cycles, but they quickly caught the vision as we actually created a little demo skill for them just so that they could understand and see what that could be like. And so we very quickly built out what is it's the Campbell's Kitchen what's for dinner skill. So you literally just Alexa ask Campbell's Kitchen what's for dinner, and it takes you through a series of questions of protein or vegetarian or different things. Do you have more than 30 minutes or less than 30 minutes? And gives you sort of a decision tree, and at the end of that then you get a recipe delivered to you. At that point in time it was delivered via email, and it would you would, when you link the account, you would link it with your email that way. And now actually the recipe card actually shows up in the companion app as well.
Yeah, and that's really, I think that's one of the most amazing things about this is that we've done so much work with natural user interfaces with things like voice, and the Alexa literally understands everything I say. She may not have the right skill for me at that particular time, but she literally understands every single word that I say, which is completely unprecedented in our experience. So can you talk a little bit about the 1-800-Flowers?
Yes, we just last week, the 1-800-Flowers skill went live, and it's around Mother's Day. That's the 1-800-Flowers #1 holiday. So, with them, they came to us and we talked about the opportunity of how to allow people to literally just say, Alexa, ask 1-800-Flowers to send my mom flowers. Or send flowers to my mom, and or to my wife, or to anybody who you have in 1-800-Flowers. You can assign contacts, and you can say their name, and it'll say, okay, do you want to send this? And it gives you some options and some sizing. And at the end of it, if you have your account linked to the 1-800-Flowers account, you can send flowers. I've sent now flowers 3 times, partly just because of the testing. It's kind of fun to test and try it, but also a lot of late nights equals flowers to the wife. So, and I got to tell you, it's super simple. It's very fast. It's actually faster to do it that way than it is on the website. And partly because we've curated the output in terms of the choices. And I think that's part of the challenges. That's one of the challenges of this voice world, is making sure that that decision tree isn't too complicated, because it is just a voice interface, and it is something that it really makes you think about that voice experience and really have to plan hard for that.
Yeah, the best skills we're finding are the ones that are conversational. It's you're not really taken out of the experience as you would be from having to find an app, go to the app store, download it, log in, be able to navigate the user interface. By the time you do that, you potentially sort of out of that funnel, that whatever that decision tree is. This, you're literally just saying whatever it is, she's understanding you, and then there's feedback immediately coming to you.
Right.
Are you able to talk a little bit about how those performed? Any good press?
What? Yeah, I can share a little bit, very high level, on the Campbell's Kitchen skill, with very little promotion in terms of, other than it got a lot of buzz, PR-wise. But very little promotion. They have sent hundreds of thousands of recipes have been delivered as a result of that skill, and tens of thousands of new emails and new contacts have been collected as a result of that. And it continues to actually be used daily at a very high rate. The 1-800-Flowers skill just went live last and was actually promoted in the Amazon Echo email last Friday, and I'm not at liberty to share all the numbers, but I can say the skill enablement was very, very, very high, and as 1-800-Flowers is actually talking about it quite a bit this week in the lead up to Mother's Day, and so they are, we're seeing really good traction on that, and it's fun to watch because we get to see those numbers, and when somebody says something about it online, and all of a sudden it spikes again, and it's fun to see.
You need to have the "oh no, I forgot Mother's Day" skill.
Just so you know, in our working with their API, you can actually order flowers through the skill through. As of Sunday morning, you can order it, and they'll still deliver it by, I think, 2 p.m. So there is a window there, but I wouldn't recommend it getting that close.
So, so if we stay with skills just for a second, so advice that you guys both have to the audience, to the people that are sort of thinking about entering into the Alexa ecosystem, what advice would you have for the audience?
Go ahead.
So I think that one of the biggest challenges, and Andrew can comment on this as well, in terms of thinking about voice design versus, say, visual design, is when you build a skill for Alexa, you're not really thinking about translating a mobile app to a voice experience. It's really about starting over and thinking about, to Ethan's point, making it do what the customer is expecting it's going to do, and that's the magic of voice, right? If the customer is continually speaking at the device and it's not responding in the right way, or it's not doing what a customer would expect, it becomes an entirely unusable experience and you lose traction very quickly. I think not trying to boil the ocean and coming in with what we call a crawl, walk, run approach, where we figure out what's that minimum viable product, what's that one customer challenge that you want to solve today, make that a really positive and enriching experience, and then build on that over time is the right way to go. And the other thing I think that people struggle with a little bit is you think about all the capabilities of a voice service, and you want to take advantage of all of them at one time. And I think over-architecting a solution is a challenge here as well. I think a lot of times brands have data that their customers want access to, but they may not know how to get it today, or they're looking for a new way to interact with that. So I think taking a step back and simplifying what you're trying to accomplish is the best thing that you can do, and then kind of building on it from a successful start.
Yeah, I'll add on to the crawl, walk, run. I think that, you look at this voice world, it's still very, very, very new, especially in this regard. And while we don't know exactly the numbers, we do know there's quite a few devices that are out there, but there's still a lot more devices and a lot more interaction that will come down the road. And I look at my kids. My kids, they sit here and ask it for everything, including help with their homework, which is, you have to tell them they can't use it for their math homework. And but they're going to grow up in an ask world. We're coming from a search world where we sit down and we search, we pick this up and we search, whereas they're going to grow up in an ask world. They're going to ask for things and whatever that is. And so I think that for brands, a lot of brands right now, the sort of Venn diagram of number of people who own an Alexa-enabled device and the number of people who will actually, one of their customers who will do their thing, it might be quite small. But that'd be like saying, well, I'm going to maybe finally build an app for the iPhone. I think that thing's going someplace now. Whereas those who got in early and figured it out, and I think that's the thing, is what we're finding is we're gaining a lot of insight for our clients. We're helping them to see what's working, what's not, what that sort of research can be, and how best to then build off of that. But start with that crawl and identify something that is interesting for your customers or helpful for them. And something that can also bring them back, because that's the other part of this. And I think we really talk a lot about that with our clients is don't look at a one-off thing where they come and they go, oh, neat, okay, done.
Right.
Look for something that can be daily or weekly, or something that can keep people coming back and keep them engaging with it, because that's also how you're going to learn.
Yeah, resist the impulse to make toys with it, right?
Totally.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's marketing gold if you can create a solution that your customer wants to come back to every day, right? And if they're using your name to invoke that experience day after day after day, the brand affinity you build through that interaction is priceless. And I think that's really important to not only build something that's not a toy, but and there's places for that, right? So I think if you think about the Batman versus Superman skill that was built, it's actually a very fun kind of choose your own adventure game, super high production value, but it's really a one-time interaction.
Right.
You get in, you play the game, but you've now driven awareness of the film, and you kind of have maybe drawn some additional interest in the film. But in a more traditional sense, if you think about like the Campbell's skill, if you start using that on a weekly basis, then maybe it becomes twice a week. Campbell's is always front of mind, and that's gold if you're trying to think about building brand affinity.
Yeah, and also we're finding too, really thinking about where the device is in the home. Kitchen and bathroom is where I have mine, because it's the two places that my hands are busy with stuff. So, and really sort of trying to think about what is the user's state of mind when they're in those two places, right? I'm cooking, I need something, I've got a knife in my hand and an onion in the other. I don't want to get over and take a look at a smartphone. What's the logical conclusion? If I can just ask for the next state of the recipe, that's hugely beneficial.
Totally.
Right? Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about skills, how organizations can take advantage of them, but there's this really, I think, amazing phenomenon of Alexa and the Echo devices becoming sort of the center of a connected home experience. And we've got two leaders in the business.
We'll take that.
Here with us. We've got Samsung SmartThings and Belkin Wemo. So I figured, Brett, if we want to be able to start with you, tell us a little bit about the company, how it sort of came to be, and where you're heading.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. So SmartThings was actually founded on a unique experience that happened, which I think we can all relate to. The founder, Alex Hawkinson, his vacation home, a pipe burst. And he thought, wow, there's no way that with all the technology that's out there, that there's no reason that I should not have been able to be notified that this event just happened and caused tens of thousands of dollars of damage in my home. And so Alex, being a serial entrepreneur and a tech guy at heart, got a serial entrepreneur band together and literally launched a Kickstarter campaign. I think still one of the most successful Kickstarters that was out there, and started to build this connected home dream. It was built on an open platform around developers and bringing in really talented people to develop applications that they dreamed of, as well as great products and brands. And I heard, Michael mention around Echo, one of the things and skills and what Alexa is doing. It's really along this, although different, but if you think about how we've developed and grown our developer community, you can't do everything internally. Like these great ideas are really founded, whether it's skills or whether it's a platform like SmartThings, which is developing across the board of every application that's within a home. It requires a development community and those thoughts and ideas to be progressive and to scale. So to date, when Alex started the company, we now are proud to say we have 32,000 developers developing against our open platform today, and really leading in that category. In 2014, Samsung acquired SmartThings really around a vision of driving and growing the Internet of Things, as we all affectionately call it today. But really, it's how do we transform our home, which still is the dumbest place on earth, right? And it shocks me. The car is intelligent, continues to be more intelligent, where we work is more intelligent, where we play is more intelligent, but our homes are so dumb. And it's because it's been hard. And I think one of the things that's so exciting about this panel is Alexa has changed some of that. And with the power of Samsung, and why I came to Samsung personally, was that is a brand that is recognized in the jungles of Guatemala or in the interior of China, right? It is a power brand, and it really is a brand that's recognized for consumer electronics, mobile applications, and cell phones, and also our television, when you think of the big family ecosystem, and taking advantage of that scale and really driving everyday brands. And that is part of our strategy, right? People trust great brands. They trust Amazon, they trust Campbell's, they trust Belkin. And if you see our anchor partnerships, it's really around not only great developers, but anchor brands. Dear friend in the audience today, Leviton, right? A great electrical company. We don't make that stuff. We want great brands and great products to be a part of our ecosystem.
So obviously, SmartThings works with a huge range of devices and various communications protocols and services. So tell us about how users and companies can really take advantage of SmartThings.
Yeah, you're right. So we're truly agnostic to protocols. I mean, if you think of different radios, and we want to take the confusion out of it. We want consumers to buy great products. So we support a variety, and I don't want to get too technical, right? But you have, whether it's Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, which most consumers know today, but no one really understands Zigbee or Z-Wave or Thread or all these other crazy things. It's what is that experience, right? How does that product get set up? What is that interaction? And not just a one-time interaction, but how do you make it more and more powerful? And an open platform, you see there's a lot of great point-to-point solutions in the market today, and they've done a really great job. And I think it was another piece of the market that started to shift, like what Nest did, or your Canary or Arlo or Belkin, all these great products that are point-to-point, one single application. Our vision at SmartThings is saying, hey, that experience becomes so much richer when the garage door opens and the lights come on and the thermostat adjusts. And that takes a platform to do that, right? Alexa, for example, and just this morning we released a new skills application with SmartThings. So thanks to the Amazon team and SmartThings, that released this morning, because now what skills enables us to do is, instead of 10 commands of Alexa, hey, turn on the kitchen island light, turn on the coffee pot, now it's Alexa, tell SmartThings good morning. And where we're headed, what would have been 10 voice commands is now one. Alexa, tell SmartThings good night. And what you've programmed your house to do is now one voice interaction with Alexa. And that's the power of a platform, right? And that's the power of allowing choice of a consumer. Get started with lighting. I think it was really super smart a year ago when we started with Alexa. It was really smart just because lighting is almost that gateway drug for people in the connected home. Philips, who did a great job with Hue. And my 7-year-old, through Alexa, can adjust her lamp to disco mode, right? Or turn her lamp to pink. And when I brought Alexa home, literally, I mean, it was so funny because here's Dad bringing home another gadget, right? And my wife, the same thing. Now, I don't even think my daughter or my wife touch a light switch. And literally, it's all through Alexa and that interaction. And they've set up scenes and different interactions of that. And it was through lighting. And then the release of thermostats and now become more and more powerful, right? But just one step at a time. And I think that's the power of a platform and great products.
Cool. Peter, let's talk about Belkin. So Wemo is obviously a huge initiative for Belkin, and it's expanding its presence in the connected home. So let's talk about where Wemo came from.
Sure, yeah. So I guess 7 or 8 years ago now, Belkin recognized there was a gap. You got a smartphone, you got a router. Surely there are other things you could do in your home with small connected devices. And so around 4 years ago now, we just launched a simple smart plug. And we've been learning ever since. And so I guess we started out with just this little observation that there was an opportunity, a gap, a space. And we've been launching early, doing a bit, learning a bit ever since then, and we're still doing that. And we kind of have two ways of thinking about it as it evolves, and we did this from day one, and we're still doing it today. There are creative, technical people who will experiment and play. We have a guy who built a device to put in his attic to solve a problem of infestation of crickets he had. The crickets were causing him havoc, and he didn't know how to get rid of the crickets from his attic. So he set up a vacuum cleaner and a little motion sensor. So every time a cricket walked along this little beam, it hit a motion sensor that turned the vacuum cleaner on and sucked up the cricket. And at the end of each week, he'd empty the bucket of crickets out, and he had a cricket extermination device. To a guy who's got a problem with chickens who poop on his porch, and so when the chickens walk in the porch, it turns on his irrigation system and it cleans the chickens out of his porch. So they're the creatives who are doing this stuff, and they're the guys with 20 or 30 connected devices in their home.
Right.
90% of this country haven't got one of these things yet. And so that's our this is our learning petri dish, if you like.
Yeah.
And all the other doctors are doing things, and we get 20 million data points a day about things people are doing with their devices. And then we take that and we say, okay, well, maybe a cricket infestation solution isn't mass market, but maybe there are
Are you sure?
Maybe. Maybe that's a good idea, though. But there are other things that aren't. So we've kind of been taking this approach of, hey, let's learn from the homes we're in. Mm-hmm. We've got about 1.5 million devices in the field, and we continue to learn from 150 different countries where habits are quite different. Mm-hmm. How difficult design for the home is. A lot of this dream of automation is predicated on people behaving like machines, and unfortunately they don't. And they're really frustratingly human. They have anti-habits, they have moods, they have groups, they have preferences as individuals. Depending on the day of the week, the preferences might change. Mm-hmm. And that makes system design for the home really hard. And we've learned a tremendous amount about that. And then the Echo came along. We were one of the first IoT propositions to launch with Echo. And we were amused to hear consumers say, hey, this is the hub for IoT. And we're like, it's not a hub. It doesn't, but they were like, it's the hub. I'm talking to this thing and it's doing everything for me in my connected home.
Right.
And so the engineers were kind of sitting there scratching their heads going, I don't get it. And then we were like, oh, hang on, we do get it. This is really transformative for the space. This is going to be the portal through which we have to do more accurate experience design. Like the watch has forced apps to be more accurate in what's the lead use case. It forces us to think more clearly about different types of user. Mm-hmm. And it forces us to think about every user, not just the dad who bought the app and bought the hardware and is trying to persuade his spouse and his kids to download the app.
Right. And the hub really being the user-centric hub, right? The user's perception of what the hub is rather than from a technical perspective.
100% right. It's the keys to getting your house to be a little bit cleverer, because the houses aren't ready yet to be smart. To Brett's point, it's really, really difficult, even with 40 sensors in a house, to be accurate in predicting what humans want.
Right.
I love walking into my kitchen, my lights come on. I love walking into my lounge, my lights come on every time I walk in there. I hate watching a movie and having to do this to put my lights back on. It's kind of embarrassing in my house, right? Because the sensors aren't smart enough yet to know that I'm sitting really still, but I don't want the lights to go fully out. And so those kind of learnings teach us every day how hard automation is and system control is. But Alexa does something very clever because it transforms automation and makes it conscious control. And then you don't have to guess what the human wants. You can kind of bypass that. So maybe for the next 3 or 5 years, that could be a really useful way of solving the problem of predicting what humans want by just letting them talk to the interface.
Well, you answered my next question already. Good for you. All right, so let's pontificate a bit. So I'll put this out to the group. Where do you guys see the connected home really heading? And second part to that is, how do you see that really changing, humans' relationship with the devices around them? Again, as you said, the dumb home. How is that going to change?
I would love to know where the connected home's going, given I've been in this space for quite a while, and it never ceases to amaze me. But I think where it's headed, Ethan, I think ambient controllers, which prior to Alexa, we personally, and maybe Peter has the same view, we really felt like ambient controllers, whether it's a remote, a television, devices people put in their home naturally, right? Alexa is a cylinder, but it became a very powerful ambient controller because of our voices are so natural and extended beyond someone just touching a smartphone, right? It has to go beyond that. So where we believe the connected home is going is really around more ambient type controllers. One specific example, we announced our new Samsung Smart TVs. We're trying to take plastic boxes out of the home, and so we've embedded our software technology into those smart TVs, so you can experience a smart home on the television. And you can also extend that to Alexa, right, or Skittles. A recipe could show up very well. So when Michael talks about Campbell's, that excites me, and you think, wow, why does Samsung get smart excited about Campbell's? Because the reality is you could say, take any application now and say, wow, we just launched a smart refrigerator that's got a touch screen on it called the Family Hub, right? It's got Pandora, you could talk to Alexa on it, but you could put Campbell's recipe on there once Campbell's recites it back, right? So now you have a visual application. That's all brought about by an ecosystem, by 3 companies, but the consumer's like, wow, 3 amazing brands, and this is so simple, right? And that's the power of an ambient controller when I say that. It's not there yet. That is where it's headed. I would love to stop making people in retail or other markets buy plastic boxes that they don't know what they do, because it's really hard, and retailers really suck at telling the story. And so you have to spend a lot of money educating consumers in a fun, quirky kind of way. But that costs a lot, right? Customer acquisition is another barrier for big companies. Not Samsung, but any company. You look at what we spend to try to acquire a user in this smart home space. And I think that's why I think prices will come down, Ethan, right? Not everybody can afford a $300 thermostat or a $300 security. The price to value has to come down, and I think we're getting to that mass market. And I think you'll start to see that, and then you'll start to see an uptick with more user adoption as well.
I'll kind of take the carrot of retailers suck at telling stories and say, hey, if we're going to make this a mass market thing, Target and Walmart have to be selling this stuff, right? So we think about Best Buy as the early adopter space to go. That's great. We're doing pretty well in Best Buy right now. The industry is doing pretty well there. They're doing even better on Amazon as an online experience. But every aisle in Target will have a connected thing at some point. Every aisle. And so it's really interesting to think about how is that story going to be clear enough to buy it, to own it, and to use it. How is it going to be easy enough? How is it going to be high quality enough for everyone to want one? At the moment, it's too hard. It doesn't work well. As the industry, it's too hard to understand. It doesn't work well enough, and it's really, really difficult to understand at retail. We have to cross that barrier. We have to work with our partners in retail to understand. In the hair straightener aisle in Target, why do I want a connected device? Well, it's really easy. You don't want to burn down your house, right? And some people in this audience here will know people who've turned around and driven back to their house to go and check, did I remember to turn that thing off? Did I remember to turn off my hair straightener? Did I remember to turn off the heater? And there's a real pain, a real problem you can solve there. And so as an industry, if we get quality right, which we're still struggling with as an industry, we're really happy to be 4 stars in our apps right now. But that was really hard to get there. If we get quality right, if we get easier to set up, which we were working on, and Alexa and Amazon did a great job of setup, then we've got to make sure we're solving a big enough problem. Like it's got to be a big enough need for the consumer. And the aisles in Target and Walmart give you a great chance to say, hey, you're thinking about coffee machines right now. What's the problem with your coffee experience that connectedness can solve? That's easy. I'm going to reorder you pods automatically. Great job. That's a reason to buy the connected one with a $30 premium. In humidifiers, heaters, lamps, what's the reason to buy? That's the reason to justify the increment. And I think if we can, as an industry, focus really, really hard time on converting the mass market into understanding you just need you just need a router and a phone. You don't need anything else. And then Alexa brings a bit of the glamour to, hey, now you can control everything in your house with your voice. I think it would really help to get the 90% of homes that haven't got one yet, that don't want to buy a hub, to your point, they don't want to buy a meaningless plastic, to help them to bring them into the space and fundamentally grow the category. Because it's not, the category's been doing this, it's not going to keep on doing this. It's going to have some step changes, and Nest was a step change, Hue was a step change, Sonos is a step change, people tend to forget about. And Echo's been a huge step change. And there'll continue to be step changes, but everything else in the background is going to be about retail and solving that in retail.
One last thing, because I think this is important when I talk about that transformation of ambient controllers. If we look at SmartThings and our users today with Alexa, about 30% of the lighting commands today are now through Alexa. So meaning they're not touching a smartphone, they're not touching a tablet, they're not touching the wall. It's a huge, massive number, right? And it just continues to grow. And now we're starting to see the same trend around thermostats, now that Alexa works with thermostats. And so you start to see the power of that exchange between someone in the home. And I think it's a fantastic trend and what will drive adoption.
Yeah, I think, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's a Gartner number, I think, that says about 2 billion connected devices by 2019. I think it's 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. So if you think about 2 billion connected devices out there in the wild, and how do people control those things, right? I think you're right on the price issue. There's this convergence point we're coming to where the price is going to be tolerable for most people, and the ease of controlling those things is also going to become controllable. It's interesting for me to listen to people talk about it. I think there's this whole slew of early adopters that are getting on. Like my home is a mix of Leviton switches and link lights and all these things, right? And Alexa allows me to bring all those things together where I say turn off my lights, right? And everything happens, and that makes it usable for my family. But I've also heard stories about people who have bought lights for their elderly mother, sent her a box with Hue lights and an Alexa, and then said, I'll talk you through it on the phone. And the phone call they get is not the call for help, it's the call that says, hey, I got this set up, and this is great. And so I think we're getting near that point where it's starting to become usable, and you're starting to help bridge that gap between the early adopter and the average user. And I think as we reach that convergence point, we're just going to see more and more adoption of this. We're at a place now where we can tell our car to back itself. Other people can tell their cars to back itself out of the garage, not mine. And so we can also then tell our car to pull in the garage, and pretty soon we're going to tell our car to turn our lights on at home, and all of a sudden all these things come together. And I think it's an exciting time to kind of see where the market goes from here.
Yeah.
I think that part of this consumer journey sort of iteration, right? It's that circle continues to get bigger and bigger, and voice, I think, has really inserted itself strongly into that consumer journey. And there's, you're not going to use Alexa on the subway. That would be awkward. Alexa, you're yelling at whatever it is. It's just not going to happen there. You're still going to be here, but you're going to be at home, and you're going to be cooking, and you're going to want to have the Alexa. And I think that for brands, they have to think about what is that full journey, what is that full circle of how consumers want to interact with their brand, and then to the point, make something useful, solve a problem, tell it in a way, and tell that story in a way that makes sense. We did an internal innovation exercise that turned into a real product, but it was a smart sprinkler controller. And there's all this really great data around if you use weather and you use all these things, you cut, water usage by as much as 70-75%. It's great. It's an amazing story. But guess what? The number one thing that people like is that they don't have to get out of bed when it's raining and go and turn their sprinkler controller off in their garage. They can pull out their phone and go, okay, rain delay, just snooze. That's it. Done. That they don't care about that. If they have had to ever fix a sprinkler head, the sprinkler sprints going back and forth to your garage. Turn it on. Oh no, it's not fixed. You're running back and forth having to fix that. That's what people, if they can see it in the real world, and I think all too often we get too caught up in this is really cool, and we're so in it, and we talk about all these really cool tech things or digital ways of doing something. But at the end of the day, if we can solve a real problem, make it really easy, and I think that's where, Alexa's done a really nice job of that. It is, Alexa, turn on my lights. Done. That's it. There's no swipe. I don't know how many of you have Touch ID on your phone, but it drives me nuts now when I have to actually swipe my phone, and I become so lazy to have to enter 4 digits. But yet I'm like, oh my gosh, my life is ruined now. And Alexa has become a little bit the same way. I'm so annoyed when I can't just ask it to turn on my music now. Sometimes I'm like, never mind, I won't listen to anything. So I think that's where we're evolving that way, and I think we have to make sure that as brands have to take a look at it and make sure they understand that full journey and make sure that journey is as seamless as possible and solves the problems of each of those places along that circle.
So we've kind of danced around this a little bit, but the vast majority of stuff that we all work on up here, and probably many of you, is they're part of services and they're part of a larger ecosystem, right? There's many, there's an iPhone client, there's an iPad client. But now we're starting to see what I would classify as kind of like the first peeks into the post-smartphone world, right? Where maybe the smartphone doesn't go away, but it starts to be removed from certain functions in your day. What are your perspectives on that? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's good, bad?
Well, as a smartphone manufacturer,
you hate it.
We still want to sell smartphones. But I think the smartphone will start to play. We're already seeing it, right? So
Yeah.
you want less of this in the home. We all do it so much, right?
Yeah.
Social media, work, everything. And that's where I think that we've crossed that to create a different type of a value in the home. But the smart home can play a different role. It can be a beacon that can activate events and triggers in the home. And as you start to see more powerful smartphones and applications with embedded technologies, which they're there, presence, as you think about geolocation, more accurate geolocation. Right now, we're not there yet, right? And you got to get consumers to trust that. But what can that phone trigger? Can it trigger a scene very similar to Alexa? And again, it becomes an ambient controller because you're not actually doing anything. But that's on us, like guys like Peter and guys like myself that build these platforms, these customer-facing applications, to create the value of that. We have to show a compelling story to do that.
I don't know if I'm the right one to speak about smartphone strategy on the panel, but I think there's a time and a place for every device, right? And I don't know that the smartphone goes away because to Andrew's point, a voice-enabled service like Alexa isn't going to work well on the subway. You're going to need your smart device to get that done. But I think it just enhances the way that you deal with your technology. And I think from our perspective, going back to what I said earlier, it's all about making your life easier. When I first got my first iPhone, I remember it felt like my whole life got easier, right? And then I started being able to interact via voice, and that changed everything as well. So I think it's actually not so much that smartphones go away. I think it's the convergence of all these technologies and how they work with each other that's really going to be the strength of kind of the future of interacting with technology. So it's not so much a replacement, but an addition to, and making sure that we do that in a smart way.
Well, I think the pervasiveness of the devices in the house and in your home and how they work together. I think a great example is the TV with the recipe. Campbell's wants to get that recipe in front of you. It's obvious. It's great if they can send it to you in an email, but how about they show you now how to Alexa, ask Campbell's Kitchen how to dice onions. I don't know how to do that, or how to fillet something, or how to, all these different things. And now it serves that up. It's a further opportunity for the brand. And if that TV is already connected, and I can just say, and show it there, or I just show it on my tablet, and I can just say that, and I know that that's how I can interact. Or send that video to my phone. I think those are the ways that we're gonna interact, and the more pervasive the devices are within the home and the way that they work together. And that's why I think, for me, I love it that everybody's creating hubs and they're creating these ways for people for these smart technologies to interact, because it makes, first of all, my job more fun. I love talking to clients about this stuff and getting them excited, but also it makes it possible. Stuff that we were like doors opening and closing by themselves on the Star Trek, on the Starship Enterprise. Now you can do that if you want. That's very possible. And I think also just one more step on this is, as we can become more prescriptive or predictive, that's where I think the smart home really becomes even better for us in terms of, you're talking about smart shopping, and a refrigerator that knows how many eggs you have in your egg carton, and so when you get down to 3 eggs, it reorders them and they come Amazon Fresh that afternoon. now I'm not wasting food. I'm not, things like that. I just think start to go really, really cool and get exciting. I don't get excited about it at all, though. I'm really very, very tame about it.
Yeah, I guess we would see the laptop, the smartphone, the watch, and Alexa, or a voice interface as 4 interfaces with 4 different affordances, or many different affordances that have a fundamental lead use case for each one, right? And so I'd use my laptop for some things on the internet, where other things I'd use my phone. And I use the watch for some things, other things I want to use the voice interface. I think it ends up building a mental paradigm in users' minds about what is this interface for. So my cell phone is for remote control of things when I'm out of the house. My laptop is for rich browsing on the internet. Alexa might be for in the moment, my hands are busy in the kitchen cutting something, I want to get something done, help me. Or they're for different types of user who don't want to be too richly engaged with a smartphone or haven't got a smarphone yet. We've all talked, I think most of us have mentioned a young person below the age of 10 in our conversation already so far. I'm really intrigued by how the voice interface opens up both benefits for people, but also challenges for design. Because when your Alexa can control your oven, how do you tell your kid that you're allowed to use Alexa, this interface, to control this thing, but not that thing? Because previously that was done by, this is an oven in the kitchen, this is a lamp. You can control the lamp as a 4-year-old, that's fine, and the lamp's over here, so you can go to play with that. This oven you cannot touch. Now they're both controlled by the same interface, there's a whole new challenge of
I
parenting.
assume there's copious parental controls.
Yeah, Alexa is not a kid's device. I think there's a lot of things that could go horribly wrong there. It really isn't intended for that.
I was just channeling your PR person now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Keep me out of trouble.
For us, it just creates a lot of opportunities of new things we can do, and kids are really engaging with this stuff. Our 2-year-old, when she was 2, saw us controlling lights, and we had this amazing moment. We went to a restaurant around the corner here, and there's this lamp hanging over the table, and the waiter walks up, and my daughter, for some reason, was frustrated that the lamp was on. And so she said, "Alexa, lights off." And the lights didn't turn off, so she screamed it a bit louder. And we're in a restaurant in public, and of course there's no Alexa in the restaurant, but the lamp didn't respond. The waiter was extremely confused as to who Alexa was, and should he be turning the light off, or was my daughter crazy? But it's such a natural thing for her. She now assumes every lamp in the world is controlled by voice, and gets mad when they're not. So I think it's a great...
It's like those stories of kids now when they go to, they see a piece of paper and they try to swipe on it because they've
Right.
never known paper. Have you seen that, where they go and they add TV screens and mirrors and whatnot? So in the time that we have left, I really want to kind of dive into the business proposition here. So this is a business conference, and lots of people here are saying sort of, what's the value of this for me as an organization? So I would open it up to the group again. Is what is the value proposition, not only sort of the connected home, but of this space, as a whole?
Can I ask a specific Hollywood question?
You can.
Okay. So Warner Brothers or its affiliate created the Batman vs Superman skill. What was the payoff for the studio, and do you actually give them access to the back end of the data to find out, once so many people have played that skill, enjoyed it, raised awareness of the film, obviously, which you're not tracking to ticket sales unless you're doing some integration with Fandango, which you might be. But could they get access to then how many people bought branded products? Is that your value proposition, to answer your question?
Yeah, so I can't speak to the specific results for that campaign, but what I can say is that their intent with launching that skill was really to drive awareness around the film. And so kind of 2 things happened. One, they launched the skill and got a lot of press around the fact that they had launched that skill, right? So they already got a big pop in the market about the movie itself and kind of tangential to the skill itself. I will say that Warner Brothers was very happy with the results that they received as a result of putting that skill on the device in terms of the numbers of interactions. It's very difficult to track kind of that relationship between I engaged with the skill to, hey, this person ended up seeing a film. There's no way to see that.
Branded products, because of course Amazon sells a lot of branded products around
Yeah.
the world. That's what I'm trying to see, if you're actually giving them access to that data.
So we can see how many times they can see how many times a person has enabled the skill and how many times it's been utilized by individuals. There's no direct way today, based upon the way Alexa is set up, to say within that skill, hey, I now want to go buy the Batman versus Superman shirt, right? And so it's still difficult to tie those pieces together, but we're working on making the metrics and reporting out of that smarter, right? And I think, so if you, part of this, and I think kind of come back to the business conversation, is understanding kind of what you can get out of it today and kind of then building your expectations off of that. I think to Andrew's point earlier, it's, that Venn diagram of customers that you have versus customers using Alexa might not be as big as you would expect it to be. But I think there's some value in being first to market and kind of being first on the platform to help your customers have those new and unique experiences. And then to be able to trial it and test it. So the next time they release Justice League movie, right? The next time they come, they're much smarter about how to leverage that. And hopefully by then there's some new features on Alexa that allow them to do the things you're talking about, where perhaps you are tracking relationships between a skill and then a purchase of tickets or a purchase of
So you
retail
actually
stuff.
embedding a facility for a trigger to be put into there where it will actually remember that, that they had watched this DC comic, and then maybe they'd like to buy something else. Will it ask you if it wants to buy the t-shirt?
Yeah, so I was thinking more along the scenario where you might be able from within the skill to go purchase directly from there, right? I can't speak to kind of the tracking of information between. We're very cautious about privacy, particularly kind of going between skills, and so we want to be very careful about that, particularly just due to the perception you have of Alexa, right? I think there's some concern about, hey, the question I get a lot is Alexa always listening to me, right? And no, she's not. Like when the light comes on, then she's listening, but outside of that, she's not. And I think, so we're really careful about privacy, and we want to be very thoughtful about that. But I think you will be able to, at some point, be able to see more dynamic interactions between actions on the device, and then be able to track those things back and forth.
Just
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on that, I think from the entertainment standpoint, I think that Alexa opens up a lot of opportunities to augment the experience that a consumer or a fan or somebody who's, who is that actively engaged person with some sort of a property, whether that be a serialized TV or a movie or whatever that is, it creates another very interesting touch point, and something I think that can be leveraged in unique ways to keep the fan engaged and keep them, further sort of more eyeballs going back to whether it's a TV show or whatever. I would say one of the pieces that I would say from the business proposition standpoint is, we're working right now with a massive brand that has their eyes down the road. They're definitely looking at where the voice is going, because it has massive implications for them from a financial standpoint. This is somebody who is very interested in how Alexa is going to integrate into automobiles, because that plays very heavily in their market. They're very interested in how people are going to interact when they're in a location, when they're on the go, when they're in their homes. So they're definitely looking down the road at where that's going to be, and recognize that this can be something that can, number one, lower costs, number two, increase customer satisfaction, number three, drive additional sales.
Yeah, I just add, I think I'd encourage anyone that is thinking about working with Alexa directly, I would highly encourage it. It brings a lot of companies together. I can tell you, Andrew and I are definitely going to talk again. We just met today. Companies that are developing with Alexa that bring just really brainstorming and unique value that you could potentially bring to your users or a new market. I think as it relates to SmartThings and Samsung, I can tell you, number two, with that integration and being an open platform, you can take advantage of that integration directly, whether you're a device manufacturer or whether you're a developer. We're the only platform in the world right now that is powering vertical markets. Michael mentioned home health. I can tell you, I know 5 companies that are working directly with home health assisted care, where we're bundling our products. It's a separate, they've developed against our APIs. It's their user interface, their tablets, Samsung tablets, and literally bundling Echo voice control for lighting and thermostat controls for elderly care, because the number one accident in assisted living is falling when it's dark, when they get up to use the restroom at night. And that is a huge market. Samsung Health, we're driving that. We want to be clear leaders in that space. And that is a great force multiplier for, as an example of how companies are coming together to leverage technology. And they don't have a direct relationship with Amazon and Alexa. We do, but they are taking advantage of that. And I think that's a very powerful example. I could give you more, but those are 2 of the biggest where you could work directly or indirectly with Alexa.
Peter?
I'll just say increasing frequency of interaction with your service or product, and making you think very differently about what is the lead use case. What is the thing you need to make most easy? I think the designing for a website encouraged somewhat sloppy thinking of, hey, you can provide 20 features really easily. The watch made it a bit harder, which is good. Alexa makes you think again in a very different way about what do people want to do in the moment, how do they think about your service or product, how would they want your service or product to come alive. So for example, if I'm in my kitchen and I say I can't quite see it, that might be a really interesting cue to turn on my lights. And so it makes you think a lot differently about your product or service. I think that's really valuable, really, really valuable byproduct. We kind of feel like it's almost the direct product of a partnership with these guys.
Cool. All right. So as we're shutting it down, I want to give everybody sort of an opportunity to. What's the best way for folks to be able to start working with your organizations? Go down the line.
So
Amazon.com.
yeah.
Go to Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Log in.
Well, I think, from our standpoint, we're really excited to see the ecosystem grow. And so to the degree that we can be helpful in kind of connecting people with others who can help them to get the work done, be helpful in kind of helping you think about what resources you need to get the work done, we're there for you. I think it's not Amazon.com, it's developer.amazon.com, right? Where you find resources. But I think inside of that, I think Amazon as a company is interested in kind of growing this space, and even as evidenced through the Alexa Fund, where we're investing not just in companies that are targeting Alexa as a controller, but just broadly people who are looking to support voice. We're always looking for new ways to do that. And I think we're excited about the future of voice, and anything we can do to help support that's where we want to go.
For me, I think we're excited about how do we help people find out what they want to do. We're actually in multiple engagements right now where it's just a discovery and scoping. We're just helping them to figure out what's going to be the best thing for them, very small engagements, to then figure out what's going to be the bigger play for them on the Alexa platform. But yeah, in terms of, for us, we're interested in sort of the whole space and how that customer journey starts and ends. Rain.agency. There you go. www.rain.agency. Easy to remember.
Yeah, and for Smart Things, we're excited to work with anyone. Developers, we love it. We get excited about, whether it's edge case or developers or products manufacturers, vertical markets, you name it. Like we want to cover it all. So just reach out. You can go to our website, find developer information or manufacturer information, and if you just want to reach out and touch somebody, like our business development team will reach back out to you.
For us, I guess, buy an Echo or an Alexa device off of Amazon.com, then buy a Wemo Switch and connect anything in your house with a plug on it for $39. It's really simple.
So I want to thank everybody for being on the panel. I did want to say that we are having an event in downtown Santa Monica, which is a companion to this tomorrow. It's a 2-hour event, much deeper dive with the folks here on the panel. So if you go to slatestudio.com/events, you can sign up. We've still got just a little bit of space. Encourage you guys to be able to grab these guys and have a chat. And with that, we thank you very much.